Joining me now is Nathan Daschle, Democrat lobbyist and president of the Daschle Group. Nathan, thanks so much for your time. We haven't heard a lot from Joe Biden since he stepped down from the presidency or said that he wasn't going to run again. We've kind of heard from him intermittently. Were you surprised by this diagnosis? Was there any talk behind the scenes that he may have been suffering in this way?
Well, it's a great question. So first of all, I was, of course, surprised by the diagnosis. I mean, there was no indication of this. And there's no evidence that there was knowledge of this prior to the announcement that was covered up. But my broader reaction really has three parts. First, Joe Biden is in the rearview mirror. He's yesterday's news. And I think that if you want to be outraged, the current Trump administration gives you plenty of opportunity to be outraged. But let's let Joe Biden live in peace right now. He's going through a clearly difficult time. Second, I think that there was some degree of a cover up on the part of his staff to conceal the status of his health. But it wasn't very successful because even prior to him dropping out, the overwhelming majority of Americans thought he was not in shape to carry on as president. So the secret was out. And third, I think that with this diagnosis, He really wasn't. And I wish that he had made his decision sooner. In fact, I wish he had been a one-term president, announced that prior, in fact, earlier on in his term. But I do think it's clear that he was not in shape to be president for another 4 years.
Well, Jake Tapper has certainly not made him yesterday's man. He's put him very much in the spotlight with his new book, and he was someone who fiercely defended him when there were ever any questions about his cognitive ability. But now his book has forensically questioned and laid bare, anecdotal evidence that perhaps Joe Biden never had the full cognitive ability when he was president.
Well, my one question about Jake Tapper is Jake Tapper is currently a news anchor, and he has been for the past several years.
Yeah.
So if he had this information, why didn't he present it as news over the last few years and instead wait for a book where he could make money? So I'm a little bit concerned about that. But look, I think Democrats concealed this. Democrats stood up for Joe Biden when they shouldn't have. At the same time, Republicans say the most ridiculous things right now because it pleases Donald Trump. So really, both parties, there's an absence of leadership and not too many profiles and courage, really in both parties. But I don't think Democrats can run from this. I think the Democrats have to acknowledge, in fact, as you may know, there is an investigative report that came out during Biden's presidency, the Hur report, that described him as being in sort of an ill fate. And Democrats pounced on that. They called the investigator partisan, even though there's no evidence that he was. They said it was a hit job. And in reality, he was just speaking the truth. So I do think that Democrats have to come to grips with this. However, at the same time, like I said at the beginning, I think Biden is yesterday's news, and there's so many better reasons to be outraged right now than talking about Biden's health.
Nathan, always good to talk to you, though. Thanks so much. We'll check in next week.
Likewise.